Today I am reviewing Mrs. McGinty's Dead. This is a Hercule Poirot novel, and written in 1952. It's actually has more of a Miss Marple feel because it is, again, not a London setting, although it's quite humorous in many ways because Poirot is in this setting. He's staying at this ghastly guest house. It's the only place in town where they can put him up, and the woman who runs it is just a mess, and it leaves pans of beans on the dilapidated furniture, and Poirot can never find a place to sit. This novel is also it's kind of the beginning of the end of Christie's last period of Poirot novels, in which Ariadne Oliver plays a much stronger role. So we have Agatha Christie's kind of fictional counterpart, Mrs. Oliver, with Poirot solving this one. And so we get a comedy from both of these characters. Poirot, because of his discomfort living in a rural setting for the time of this mystery, and Ariadne, because she's very frustrated. She's working with this young man on adapting one of her mystery novels for the stage, and he wants to make all of these changes, and she doesn't see why they can't just let her, just perform the story that she had written. Christie would have also been understanding this point because she had been adapting several of her plays for the theater and met up with challenges regarding that. Now, the story itself, Mrs. McGinty's Dead, is a story that about a woman, Mrs. McGinty. She's a cleaning woman, lower class, working class. She cleans house for several of the people in the village. She's found hit in the back of the head with a object like an axe or something, and 30 pounds have been stolen from underneath the floorboard by her bed. So the number one suspect is her young lodger, who is arrested, tried, and found guilty of the crime. The superintendent, kind of in charge of the investigation, is not happy with this verdict. He just has a bad feeling about it. Poirot at first doesn't even notice pay much attention to this murder because he thinks that modern murder is very crude, very uninteresting. But when the superintendent comes to see Poirot about James Bentley, the man who's been accused of the crime and is about to be hanged for it, Poirot becomes interested just because of this the superintendent's unease about the whole thing, and he agrees to investigate the crime. And in this case, we see a lot more, again, internal Poirot. It's not the conjuring tricks of the novels of the 30s where he's kind of leading Hastings and us up the garden path and giving us all the clues but not really revealing much. Here we get inside of Poirot's head. We hear about his doubts, about not knowing what's going on, trying to figure things out. Much more of the internal processes are at work. What Poirot does discover is that Mrs. McGinty was killed because she recognized someone. There had recently been an article in the local paper about 4 women who were associated with various notorious crimes, whether they were murder or attempted murder or different things like that. And so they showed old photographs of these women, and somewhere in her cleaning, Mrs. McGinty comes across the original photograph, and because of that knowledge, she is killed. The novel itself is kind of an odd one. It's enjoyable, but I felt like it should have been more enjoyable than it was. I felt that the characters lacked something. This is one that could have been right up there, I think, with Sad Cypress, but the characterizations I didn't find all that strong. And so one feels while they're reading it that this is a really interesting story, but it's hard to grasp. It's more like you're trying to remember a dream. I mean, none of the pertinent facts stay with you. Everything's a bit hazy in this novel, and for that reason, I can't give it a super high rating, but I will give it, I'll say a 3.75 because of the humor and because there is something there. There's a nugget there. The next novel that I'm going to be reviewing will be They Do It With Mirrors. It's a Miss Marple novel. We'll be getting into a lot of Miss Marple novels in this period.